Woke Star Wars is going to get even worse this summer once The Acolyte comes out. We've got our, of course, black, strong female lead doing her thing with the Force. She's going to be better than everybody, just like usual. But they're pushing like transgender ideology into the series now. They've actually got a trans activist that they've cast in the show. And this is something that has been pushing for a while in these TV shows, and we're going to get this again here. And George Lucas now is speaking out against the crazy diversity pushes in Star Wars. He's been silent for a long, long time. I don't know if it was contractual obligations with the sale of it. Probably. They probably said, hey, we gave you billions of dollars. You need to shut up for 10 years at least. And he probably said, okay. But it looks like that's kind of over as he's been pushing back against Disney Star Wars over the last several years. And now he's pushing back against this notion that Star Wars isn't diverse and inclusive enough and needs more representation, coming from the Kathleen Kennedys of the world who just want to put a chick in everything and make it lame and gay. We're going to get into what George Lucas is saying about the current direction of Disney Star Wars in just a second. My name is John Delarose. I'm a #1 best-selling author and award-winning comic creator, and I would love for you to check out my Star Wars alternative, Justified Saga of the Nano Templar. This is a trilogy of books about just being badass in space. It's everything that the Jedi are not, because they're they're kind of weak, let's be honest. And so we take Crusaders, and they go out there and do their holy mission in space. And it's really awesome. You can see that I've got really good ratings on Amazon with it. I'd love for you to check this out. That link's in the description below, along with all of my other ways to support the channel. And I would appreciate you liking and subscribing and hanging out with us. It means a lot to us to grow the community here, and we appreciate you for being here, unlike Disney, who doesn't appreciate you as fans. Oh my gosh. So very interesting stuff. Business Insider was talking about George Lucas pushing back at Star Wars diversity criticism. Now, the way that they phrase this in the headline is always how they do it with the kind of mainstream news. But the criticism is that Star Wars is, quote, not diverse enough. It's not that the critics of Star Wars are annoyed with it, which is what they kind of imply here. And, of course, people have been annoyed with Star Wars for a long, long time. They noticed that everything Star Wars-wise has been put a chick in it and make it lame and gay over the last several years. This started with, of course, Rey Skywalker, the Mary Sue herself. If you forgot those movies, I'm going to remind you a stroll down memory lane. Back to the lore. And The Last Jedi, which was just a travesty, destroying everything that was left of the original Lucas films and just making it a black guy fumbling around in space, chasing after this lady. Now, let's not forget the very end of that trilogy where they just inserted the lesbian kiss in the whole celebration scene at the end, which they took out of markets like Saudi Arabia because they, rather than just take out the film, they wanted that Saudi Arabian money. So they made sure to just remove it and have a different version of the film, because these stunning and brave people are only stunning and brave where they don't have to be stunning and brave, is what it comes down to. Since that point, of course, we've had all the Disney Plus shows, which have been train wrecks. Obi-Wan was really about a black chick in space. Andor is really about chicks in space. Of course, we had Ahsoka, which is about wine ants in space with their cats. It was a disaster. All of it's just been a complete train wreck all the way around. Don't even get me started on Book of Boba Fett, the worst out of all of it. But it's ruined Star Wars, and they're trying to push this diversity thing even further by hiring crazy people like Justina Ireland working on the High Republic stuff, who's a complete race-baiting train wreck. She has no talent writing whatsoever, and her entire career is off of just crying racism. Is what goes on here. So this is what he says about it. He says they would say, meaning people like Justina, it's all white men. Most of the people are aliens, he says, which is ridiculous. He says the idea is you're supposed to accept people for what they are, whether they're big and furry or whether they're green or whatever. George Lucas, let's be a little careful on this. I don't know about the furries. Let's dial it back just a little bit, will we? He says the idea is that all people are equal. And of course, that's the classical liberal sense. And if, it is something that exists there, that everybody, just kind of exists. And, we can just leave each other alone and it'd be great. Not anymore. Not in the modern liberal day. Now you have to replace everybody. Everything has to look exactly the same. The irony about it all is all of these movies now are just exactly a clone of each other. Like all the effects look the same. You can't tell the difference between Star Wars and Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek looks like a Star Wars movie now. I love that it's a black chick in a mask. Amazing. Got to protect yourself from that COVID-19. Anyway, the cast makeups are all exactly the same. It's always a black woman, lead, or a strong woman lead with a black guy with her. And then they have their third racial component, who's usually an ambiguously gay Asian guy, maybe a lesbian along with them. And it always looks the same. These parties in every single scene looks the same. It's not diverse at all anymore. It's quite the opposite. And he said he added that robots were the only thing in the Star Wars universe that faced discrimination. He said that's a way of saying, people are always discriminating against something, and sooner or later, that's what's going to happen. I mean, we're already starting with AI saying we can't trust these robots, and that's actually very true. If you look at the Hollywood industry, and if you look at the arts industry, like in comics and things like that, you see these people flipping out about AI like it's just like some sort of like giant threat to them. And the reason is because it is. These mediocre people who can't write, you can probably put a better script into ChatGPT than you can getting out of the Star Wars Acolyte writer's room. Their mediocre hack talents are at risk for this kind of thing. They have real reason to fear it. And that's what it comes down to, is really just fear on these people's parts. And these people hate normal people, too, because they've gotten into these arts communities, into these weird sort of setups with these weird people. And they've gotten normal people kicked out of Hollywood, normal people kicked out of the arts almost everywhere. And so there's a fear and hatred of normalcy, too. It is really true. He says, in the first one, there are a few Tunisians who are really dark. The second one, I had Billy Williams. The prequels were also criticizing. I had Sam Jackson. He just wasn't a scoundrel like Lando. He was one of the top Jedi. So he's saying, like, look, if this is about black people, there's always been black people in Star Wars since, like, the first one. You guys are absolutely insane, and they are. And the thing is, like, what used to happen in the 70s and 80s and 90s is they'd have people like this, Samuel L. Jackson, who people just like generally, and they'd cast him in these roles, and they wouldn't worry so much about whether they, like, have, like, a 13% black, sort of casting to try to, like, have this, like, perfect, quote, representation, which is weird because it's usually, like, 50% black people now. 13 and 50. Oh, those are numbers I can't talk about on YouTube. But they just cast the right people for the roles and had a good time with the roles. Billy Williams did a great job as Lando. Everybody liked him. When it came down to Donald Glover kind of replacing him later, people didn't quite like that as much. And it just was what it was. It was not something that they just sat there and just like sat in a cookie cutter boardroom with again, Kathleen Kennedy, trying to just do this perfect representation mix all the time. It was really just about putting the right actors in the right roles. And so he's been quiet for a long, long time, but he gets to talk about things. And of course, what we're doing in the in Disney is quite the opposite. It's 2024 now. It's about time we had a woman come forward and shape a story in a galaxy far, far away, they said. Well, that's kind of weird because if you guys know anything about actual Star Wars, Leah Brackett, who is a woman in the science fiction industry, had a large portion of the writing credits of Empire Strikes Back. So it's almost like everything they always say is a lie. All their diversity stuff that they push has already been done before. There's no firsts anymore. And they just are about hating white people at the end of the day. And that's what George Lucas seems to be frustrated about. It's all about the fact that they want less white men into things and not that they actually want some sort of diverse representation in any of this stuff. It's pretty obvious. And the mask is slipping more and more every day. You see the more and more critics actually openly saying they don't want white men involved in any of this stuff anymore. And that's what's destroying Star Wars because, gosh, you can't have a Star Wars without a white Han Solo, without a white Luke Skywalker, or even a white Darth Vader. Well, I guess he was black on his helmet, and then he was a white guy on the inside. Oh, gosh. I'm not going to make that joke. That's already been done in a movie. All right, leave a comment down below with what you think about this, my friends. Hit the like and subscribe button. And, guys, please make sure to go to Amazon. Check out my Justified Saga of the Nano Templar. As I mentioned before, this is a book that is quite poignant and actually does the opposite of what these people in the current Star Wars Disney crew are doing. And I believe you'll absolutely love this book. So please check it out. That Amazon link will be first in the description below. Hit the like and subscribe button, and we will be back with some more fun science fiction news soon.